Yo, what's up, people of YouTube who stumbled upon my video? What's up? Uh, Today is gonna be right now. It's gonna be a very controversial topic, and it's a topic that I've been wanting to discuss for quite some time now. And if it wasn't for my best friend who, you know, kind of pushed me to do it yesterday, we were talking about it. Um, and I figured, you know what? What the heck? And it's about perfectionism, and it's this concept of wanting to be, of being perfect. Now, I have nothing against, wanting to be perfect, but it gets to the point where some people think they are perfect, and it's just really, really retarded and really annoying. Now, the way it works is that this this society, society has specific standards of how things should be, right? But then you have particular groups of people who think they are above everybody else, and that creates chaos and turmoil. Now, I'm not saying that chaos and turmoil is bad. It's actually sometimes good because it helps humans, the human race evolve. But here's where, this idea of being perfect leads to a bunch of other things in everyday life that just makes life a lot harder. For example, bullies are main, they're a main thing. Bullies are people who have this strive for perfection inside themselves that they feel like the only way they can achieve perfection is by proving they're better than others, which they do by diminishing other people's lives and their way of being, just so they themselves can feel better and be like, hey, technically you should be doing what I'm doing. And thus that whole thing happens, and then when you see that, from outside, like, you're like, okay, so this guy's just a jerk. But then to be honestly, you know, you should feel kind of sorry for that person because they don't know themselves. That's the biggest problem. When you want to be perfect, when you think you're perfect, you basically don't know yourself. So you're just trying to put yourself above everybody else, so you yourself can try to make yourself feel better. There's also the concept of arguments. That's one of the things that me and my best friend were talking about a lot last night, and that's because there have been a lot of arguments during our friendship, and then the thing of it is, we actually discussed this as a really good topic in this sense, and the main reason why arguments exist is this theory inside our brains that says we're right and they're wrong. Again, that's trying to be too perfect, trying to be perfect that you don't want to admit that, yeah, sure, you're wrong. And that's where arguments come from. You have two people, or even two, just multiple people, right? Who they believe are right. They think what they're saying is what is and what should be. So since they themselves internally want to be perfect, they're trying to kind of manipulate the other person into, hey, I'm right, just shut up, you're wrong, you're not perfect. And that's where the concept keeps coming in. That's what I mean. I'm not saying I mean arguments do have their good points, because you're basically helping the other person understand. If you truly are right about what's going on, then yeah, you should probably continue your argument. What Not in the fact that you just want to prove you're right, because then that just makes you look like a jerk. The the other part of this whole thing is, going back to society. During time, there's always been a particular group that technically society says to strike. Back in the day, racism was a really big thing, and it technically hasn't disappeared, But because you know history has been kind of showing us that there has been racism in the past, and that whole quote of if those who do not learn from history, are destined to repeat it. I actually do believe in that, but me and my best friend actually made a good point. If you don't teach the younger kids about this historical facts, then maybe they wouldn't know about it, thus they wouldn't act upon it. Because it's true. Because then you teach people about when blacks were this subgroup of people that should just be controlled, and then you're basically telling them they are different, and there's nothing wrong with being different. So then you have this image in your head that your race is the perfect race, which again goes back to World War II with Hitler. He thought that the Nazis should be the perfect beings, so he went off to kill the Jews. What I mean, is just you see it in history. Perfection has just messed up in so many ways. Slavery was that the white person thinking they're so perfect that they have the right to own another life. And then the biggest problem with that is that not just white people are learning about this whole slavery stuff. So then there's all these races who are actually that are learning about all this horrible stuff that happened in the past. And here's an issue: everybody technically has some form of racism inside them. They just don't know it, or they do know it, but they try to ignore it, or they try to hide it. Now, there's nothing wrong with being racist. Just don't show it off the way most people do, which is literally just attack a person. One person. Just that's it. That's their thing. Now, I'm not saying it's good to hate. It's not. You should. I'm not saying everyone should love each other, but there's no reason to hate. I mean, you can really dislike someone, but say you hate someone, it's actually like stabbing them. And I'm not, and again, words are just words, but really, when you hear someone say they hate you, it really hurts you. Now, the thing about it is, going back to racism, is this idea of you being, you feeling, hey, I'm better than you. Now, because that was in history, and people still believe that to this day, those particular races that have been the pinpoint of racism for a long time now don't think that they can really trust others because they know that they're still being judgmental. And that's a big problem because just because a certain person called you this and they hate your race doesn't mean that another person which is of that same race is going to say the same thing. So then you get this mixed signal of you don't know who to trust because they're the same race, and then at least one person has told you this before. And go looking back in history, a lot of them. So then there's this mistrust, and again it goes back to perfection because they thought they were the perfect being, so they made others inferior. And it just goes. Now, homosexuality now, homophobia in particular, is now the big problem. Because there's gays, there's homosexuals around who can't. So, they have to hide themselves just because of this fear that there, I mean, society, and this is actually part, religion's actually played a major role in this, because I mean, I'm a Catholic. So I know the big deal of why they hate they have caused so much streak towards homosexuality because you know there's so many things wrong with Catholicism that kind of makes me kind of move away from it. But I still say I'm a Catholic because I still believe in some of the stuff. But this whole issue of them incorporating into society that the perfect couple, again, perfection, the perfect couple is a man and a woman. Technically, it doesn't have to be. I personally believe that homosexuality is, you know, is not shouldn't be as big of a deal as it is. And the biggest problem with this whole still perfection thing is that just as soon as we start being okay with homosexuality, there's going to be a new group that we're going to try that society's going to incorporate. They're not perfect, so we should hate on them. And that's it's just mainly one group that incorporates it into society, and then everybody else is like, whoa, that's kind of true. But it technically isn't. Everybody is supposed to be equal. But then there's those subgroups and those sub people, that just start to think, I am technically better than all of you, so you should be like me. Which brings back another topic that me and my best friend discussed, and that is there's a point in our friendship that he was technically trying to change me, and I got mad at him because of that, and we stopped talking. When you try to change someone, it's basically saying that your way is the perfect way, is the right way, and that they should be just like you because then they could be perfect too. Now, I'm not saying you can't help your friend and try to make him a better person, but when you're literally trying to shape somebody else to be this image in your head of perfection, kind of leads you to this struggle between you and that person to where you kind of tear apart. And that actually happens a lot, all over the world. People, and it's not. I mean, I was gonna say it's mainly girls, but it kind of involves guys too, because they try to, they get these groups, which are their friends or posses, whatever, and then they kind of trying to push their friends to be like them. They show it off in movies a lot, but I don't think anybody actually catches that. Um, there's one person who's the leader of the pack or whatever, and they themselves then start kind of getting everybody else to be like them, because hey, you should be like me because I'm perfect. And there's also the concept of governments, which they think they're perfect, so they should be controlling things. Like back in the day, government wasn't so bad because they actually listened to people, and it was a commute. But now government, the government thinks so perfect and so much better than everybody else that they try to control everything, which kind of again makes you kind of look back and say, I don't like that. And that's why we have elections, and then we kick off everybody we don't like because they were trying to control us. And that's what perfection is you're trying to control something that just should not be controlled. There is also striving scientists, uh, those scientists that say that they've created the perfect thing. And what is there? If if you reach perfection, there's nothing after that. So these people. I mean, to leave off with a good note, I guess I should say this. It's not a bad thing to strive for perfection. I think it's okay to want to try to better yourself. That's the point of life. You're supposed to make yourself as best as you can, so that you can have a successful life, so that you can feel happy when that last moment before you die, you can say, I loved my life. I think I did everything I wanted to do. There's nothing wrong with trying to be perfect, but when you start to say, hey, I am perfect, you're stuck in limbo there. Because as soon as you reach this idea of perfection, there's nothing after that. There's no room for improvement. There's just nothing. You're just stuck in this, in your own world, that you lose contact with reality, and then that's when people start, tearing apart. I know I said I was going to leave this on a good note, but That's technically how it is. When you, let's see, there was a quote from Bleach. Bringing my anime side into this. The fight between Mayuri and Sailaporo. That was an epic fight, by the way. There's a point in the anime, or in that fight, right before the end, where Sailaporo admits that he is the perfect being. Now he was a scientist just like Mayuri. So when Mayuri, defeated him, he said this: as a scientist, you can never achieve perfection because after that there is nothing. Which means there's no room to make something better. And that is true. When you reach perfection, there's nothing after that. It's just stuck there without going anywhere. And for a scientist, that's like, and he said that's a scientist's dream is to strive for perfection, but their goal should never be to reach it, because then there's nothing. And I actually like. It's kind of something I love about anime because they actually teach you this stuff. I mean, it's not just pure fun and games. No, they actually sometimes they have these hidden meanings that you just have to really focus on it to actually catch it. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is don't be afraid to try to better yourself. That there's nothing wrong with that. But don't get to the point where you start thinking that you are the right way, you are the perfect being, that everyone should be just like you. Because the world would be boring if everyone was the same. There would be no improvement, there would be nothing. We would just be stuck in this hole that we would never be able to get out of. Everybody's different, everybody should stay different. Because that's where, technically you can't better yourself if everyone's the same. You need this difference between people so that you can yourself mature and improve on your mistakes. And then it's just, I mean, if someone else is different, you can learn about this other person and be like, hey, maybe that's kind of cool. Maybe I could try. There's just, yeah, I guess that's the main point I want to bring out. Just everybody should just stay the way they are. No, there's no right or wrong in this situation. To be honest, I believe that just this whole idea of perfectionism is wrong in the worst way, and it's because, and the worst part is that they incorporate themselves on top of society, and society technically has an iron fist, and it's gonna punch you in your face when you say that society is wrong and you are what you should be. So yeah, I guess that's all I want to talk about. It's kind of a long video now. Damn, 18 minutes long. But I really do appreciate you watching the whole thing. If you did, what are your thoughts on perfectionism? Did you ever have to deal with someone who thought they were so above everybody else that they just caused grief for everybody? Um, or just any situation where you felt like maybe you were being down talked to just because you're different. I don't know. Like for those people who have had those problems, because I actually kind of saw bullying when I was in high school. I did try to stop as much as I could. I did try to help the victim most of the time. I never really talked to the bully. I was actually attacked. Then I actually became to where I could actually counterattack, so it kind of worked. Um, but for those who are downgraded, feel better about yourself because then you at least know you're comfortable with who you are. They just don't know themselves. And you see, I'm not saying hey, be like, hey, I feel sorry for you because okay, might make it worse. But just try not to feel like it's your fault. It's technically theirs for not knowing themselves. So yeah, again, thanks for watching. Again, write down in the comment section below what you think of this idea of being perfect. Are you just like me who thinks it's okay to strive for it, but your goal should never be to reach it? It's kind of like what Yuri said. And yeah, so thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys later. I'm glad I was able to meet my 4 episode quota, or my 4 video quota for today, because I was so behind. I figured, hey, I need to make at least 4. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.